Hi Models.com, my name is Luke Marr and I run Haute Le Mode and we're here at Outer Heaven. Alaïa was magnificent. It was an experience. Sitting in the lobby at the Guggenheim was wonderful. I think Mona Two Guards opened it up. Kendall walked, which I think that was the only thing that she really had walked. It was something that I think people could really understand and get into, at least early on in the collection, and as it sort of moved in, it then started to become so much more complex. I know that they redid those spiral tops that they had done last season, which is the reason that the Guggenheim asked Alaïa to go and show in New York, but they had done these sort of draped versions of it. And there was a lot of, I think, references to like Madame Grey, again, this sort of like ease, this ability of like sculpting on the body. Peter, studied architecture, and then the Guggenheim in and of itself is sort of this architectural masterpiece. So this idea of like sculpture and building, but in a fabric form was kind of different. Victoria Tretti walked as well. I do have to say, as a staunch Binks Walton stan, when she closed the show, I was like, ugh! I love Binks, so it was like so nice to see Binks back on the runway, and then to also like close out Alaïa. I was like, oh, It all went quiet, and so we all thought this show was about to start, and then Rihanna just walked in. We were all like, huh? And so that was also like a nice little moment. She's wearing, I think, a recreation of vintage Alaïa as well. She looked beautiful. Like when Rihanna shows up, you're like, okay, well, that's fair. I think Jackson Wiederhoeft is really, honestly, one of the most exciting New York designers. Like, I know that a big part of his business is bridal. My interpretation was a bride not being able to marry who she wanted, and there were so many elements that were sort of pulling her away from what she wanted to do in terms of love. And then the models kind of came out and they kind of skulked in a way. It felt weird to watch them skulk in such like amazing and well-fitted and quality creations. The idea of all those models having different sizes, not only in terms of like weight, but also in terms of height, is actually kind of brilliant, because as an American, I can tell you that I have a lot of friends and a lot of them are short, and that's okay. Ice Spice recently wore a Wiederhoeft dress, and it's a corset style with a sort of frou-frou skirt. And again, I don't think Ice Spice is super tall, so it doesn't only just work for the runway, but it also can be worn whether it's on celebrities or on clients. It seems like there is this idea of like making sure the fit is perfected and it's going all throughout. I'm gonna say Michael Kors. I feel like Kors is also a really great example of, yes, it's simple and it's really clean, but at the same time, Michael throughout has always sort of embodied this idea of multiple sizes and, a range of models. I know that there was a famous, I think, Korean superstar that walked the show. She wore like a beautiful little brown knit dress off the shoulder, and she looked stunning. She looked super sweet, really cute. I know that Paloma Elsesser walked that show, and she wore this beautiful little knit top and a nice little lace skirt, which I think is that sort of standard Michael style. A lot of it is these sort of sweaters paired over longer skirts. There was a lot of really beautiful tailoring and a lot of clean linen styles. There was this beautiful set with this gigantic sort of volcanic rock, I think, that was sort of in the middle of the show and sort of created this lovely little aura. It was really pared down and really clean, but at the same time, I think that's what the Kors customer really enjoys. I think they like just having something that's easy to put on, easy to understand. It's reasonably priced luxury, which I think now in the market is not really as common as one would like for it to be. Graceland honestly was one of my favorite shows, and it was great, again, to see a young designer working with a wide range of sizes. Not only does she create these beautiful sort of sculptural pieces, I know that there was a lot of her sort of signature hardware. Some of it was in garments. There was like beautiful blazers with, instead of buttons, little just sort of slivers of metal. At the same time, I was looking at Ashley Graham and Precious Lee, who, Precious Lee looked stunning. Like, she looked beautiful. Ashley Graham also looked great, and she wore this really sort of high slit style that had geologic sort of material and print sort of running through it. It was a cool show. Like, not only was it exciting and interesting and fun to look at, but at the same time there was a lot of really strong commercial pieces. To have like young brands like Graceland sort of putting out things that you're gonna see hopefully on the Met Gala, like this big nest bird barbed wire dress that just had nothing underneath it. you're like, okay, I'm into that. I know that there was definitely some sort of flower product tucked into the bouquet of flowers. So like that I think is also fun and smart and cool, and it's nice to see the way that a lot of the PRs are sort of incorporating these brand sponsors to help these young brands, but also that correlate. I'm gonna say Kina Estrada, I think, is my final one, because I think the casting, again, is always really exciting. I know that the Green Lady of Brooklyn walked the show in an all green look, and she had like a little lizard bag that she was carrying around. The actual like casting was also fun. There was a woman who opened the show and she was like flipping and throwing herself on the ground, and we were all like, oh my God, her pelvis, it's broken. But she was very good. I know that Ian Jeffrey was like pushing a, hand lawn mower. Aaron Phillip always walks the show, and throughout a lot of the looks on the runway, there were these beautiful sort of tiers of flounces at the back. And so Aaron's had sort of the tier of the flounce at the back of the wheelchair too. So again, like this idea of incorporating like everybody belongs in the world of Kina Estrada is also really nice and cool to see through all these different models. A lot of the pieces are upcycled, so it does always have this eco sort of conscious idea. I know that they worked with Sperry's, and a lot of the shoes that were Sperry boat shoes were covered in grasses and all these sorts of things. A lot of pieces that sort of have a flowy, natural feeling, just simple techniques that always look good and always look beautiful, but with this more modern and urban sort of spin. I think New York overall was condensed, it was easy, it worked, it got what it needed to get, and it wasn't too long. The expectation for the rest of the month, I mean, it's gonna be a tough act to follow when it comes to Alaïa, so, it's not that it can only go down from there, but, you're gonna have to raise the ante. I'm excited, honestly, for a lot of, like, the storied brands, whether it's, Prada, Louis Vuitton, Miu Miu. I think that they always sort of put together, honestly, like a pretty stellar atmosphere and world, which is always nice to see. There was also a lot of celebrity casting in New York too, so I'm interested to see if that continues on throughout the rest of London, Milan, and Paris. All in all, I'm excited to see how the month progresses.